Write your fanfic where Stannis and Catelyn actually marry and not Ned.
Fucking shoot me.
Whoa. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Glass Candle Podcast, where we look at what is, what could be, and what will come in A Song of Ice and Fire. My name is Arik.
And I'm Lillian, and we admin over at the A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones Discussions and Theories Facebook group.
So this chapter we're discussing Cat 6
Oh, fuck.
from A Clash of Kings. As always, the podcast format's going to stay the same. I'm going to give a summary, then we'll discuss who the main character of the chapter was. We'll decide who held the biggest influence over the POV character and why. Knowing how the future plays out, we'll try to figure out what kind of alternative actions the character could have taken to avoid the result that we know happens. We discuss how the events of this chapter affect the other plots going forward. We'll select an alternative POV to view the events of the chapter from. We have a massive section of quotes, and then we close with standout appearances and then theories that apply. So, you ready?
Go for it.
All right. We open with Edmure and his host setting out from River Run to hold the fords and keep Tywin back. Catelyn is more or less left in charge of River Run, with only the wounded, the old, the sick, the Green Boys, etc., left there in the castle. She calls back some memories about duty and bastards, while she waits and just panics pretty much all day, every day. She does receive word that Storm's End has fallen to Stannis, and she figures out Stannis' reason for his interest in Edric Storm. Later on, Lord Brax's son tries to cross the Red Fork within sight of River Run, and Cat watches from the towers as they get pushed back. Over the next few days, the Tullys win several more smaller skirmishes at the fords, and the Lannisters never get to cross. Eventually, Cat goes to speak with Cleos Frey. Having delivered him wine earlier, Cleos is talkative and unable to deceive her. He gives Cat Tyrion's terms to trade Arya and Sansa for Jaime, but Cat has come to grips with how this is an uneven trade. Afterwards, she receives news that Tywin struck in force and was most grievously turned back at Stone Mill, where Edmure won a legendary victory over the mountain. Tywin has since retreated southeast for reasons yet unknown. And there's your Cat 6 summary. There's some details left out of there about Cat's internal thinking and worrying and all that other stuff, but did I leave anything important out?
I don't think anything important. This chapter is kind of sucks.
Yeah, this was not quite the same as those Game of Thrones military recap things, where like all of the more interesting people are off fighting, but it was kind of like that. It's kind of like her Sept chapter, where she's just sitting around thinking. So, who is the main character of this chapter?
I had Edmure as the main character. The chapter is basically all about his actions, everything he's doing. He's the one that set off and is commanding these battles, and Cat's just watching.
Well, Ed's only at one spot.
But it's his bannermen. He's given them directions on what to do.
Right. I mean, the instructions are hold it forward. I picked Cat mostly because this is I don't want to say a defining chapter, but it's a strong chapter of describing, I'm going to say this quote that you're going to roll your eyes at, her patriarchy brain. Yeah, there it is. It's focusing how much she's bought into her female role in this feudal society. A lot of it about her doing her duty. There's a big section about that comes in and goes. And also about bastards and like the nature of bastards and stuff like that. But most of it is just her sitting in the castle worrying and waiting. Alright, so the next one is who had the biggest influence over the character and why. I picked Edmure for this one, and this is the same reasons that you mentioned why you think Edmure is the main character. But Catelyn spent the whole time just waiting on news from what he was doing, and then reacting to that news. That's pretty much it. And then also her acting as the quote leader of River Run in her female role So that was the main influences over what she did there.
Okay. I
What
had
do
the
you think?
main influence as her children. The entire book is about her worrying. Well, she worries about all of her children, but obviously she is with Rob, so Rob is kind of the biggest focus for her. But throughout this chapter, we get some bits on Arya and Sansa, so she's thinking about their well-being as well, and kind of the remorse she has for selling the dream of King's Landing to Sansa. So I feel like
Oh,
her thoughts on the
that's a good call.
girls really affect her at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point to single out her. I don't know if you can call it regret, but yeah, she definitely feels responsible for convincing Sansa to head to King's Landing, and it's turned into this giant shit show for her.
Yeah.
But she's like, that was probably my fucking fault. But at the same time, like when that situation presented itself, Kat had an opportunity to make her daughter the most powerful woman in Westeros. So you can't really blame her for that.
Well, I'm not. I think it's
Well, yeah, not
unfortunate.
you, but
Oh well, like as a woman, as a mother, to have that thought, like, and to regret doing that to your child, it's got to suck.
yeah. All right, so jump to our next point.
So knowing how the future plays out, what should the POV have done differently? I had nothing because this entire chapter, Kat's kind of just the viewing vessel. Else is happening around her. Maybe, if anything, try to cut another deal with Cleo's Frey. But otherwise, she's just watching the battles happen around her. Like, what could she really do at that point?
Yeah, I had the same thing. Like nothing. There's nothing she really could have done different. I don't think Cleos, because of the plot that he was unaware of, he's kind of killed any kind of diplomatic missions he's going to go on in the future. Actually, he's
Not really, but
yeah, not really.
we know how the story goes.
No, like she sent word to Rob about Stannis, which was a smart way to go, like passing on essential information from another king that's doing shit. You know, good call on that, but there really wasn't a whole lot she could do except sit there and wait. So it was kind of a throwaway sort of question for this chapter.
Okay, so how did the events of this chapter affect the other plots? I kind of had a hard time with this one. It sets up Jaime's release because, she's talking to Cleos, and at this point she's getting Tyrion's terms. He's willing to trade Arya and Sansa for Jaime. And it's pushing the Lannisters back and kind of plants the seeds of Roos's true feelings about... In my notes I wrote Roos's true feelings about Theon. Yeah, that's exactly who his bastard is.
I missed that part.
But I liked the choice wording he had for Ramsay's actions and all of that.
Yeah, I thought that was like that kind of jumped out at me out of nowhere. I was like, oh look, Bruce sent a letter. He's saying some crazy shit. I put that down in my quotes.
I have it later too.
What was the first thing you said?
Sets up Jaime's release.
Oh yeah, with Tyrion's terms. Sorta. I don't quite 100% agree with that because she thinks for a second she's like Tyrion, like he could be a now fuck that. He's a monster. He's the worst one, and all that other stuff. So perhaps she flips that. I can't remember how the next chapter goes. I haven't read it yet. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how she steers away from that sentiment. In the next chapter, actually go through with it. I had aside from what we knew from leaving off from the last chapter, Storm's End did in fact fall to Stannis. So fair enough. That was fairly obvious and written in the text there. She's thinking that Arya isn't in King's Landing. She's come to kind of accept that. She's building up like this reason, like, well, maybe she is because she's unruly and she's hard to control and all this other stuff. But she doesn't quite believe that. She doesn't know if she's dead or alive. But Kat's starting to piece together that Arya's probably not in King's Landing. Obviously, the stone mill ruins Rob's plan, but that's kind of with this same storyline going forward. At least in this point, and from this chapter, Sansa still gets stuck in King's Landing because Kat's not going to accept the terms. Yeah.
It's not that Kat isn't going to accept the terms. Kat
can't. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's not a whole lot. No, there's never a whole lot with Dorne anyway. She talks about John for a second, or thinks about John.
Mm-hmm.
As far as everybody else, it's kind of the big reveal at the end that they beat Tywin was really what this chapter was building up to. Small victories, and then it comes up to the big one.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Tywin's big loss, alternative POV. Who do you have for this one?
I had Edmure to see what was happening outside of Riverrun because, she's at the castle, and she can see fires and things like that. But if we were in Edmure's mind, we could see, it'd be like, remember in the cat POV in Game of Thrones where Theon is telling the story of Whispering Wood and how everything went down? I feel like a POV through Edmure's mind would be the same, action-packed, all of that stuff going on.
I had a lot of the same reasons, but a different person. I picked the Mountain, Gregor Clegane.
Okay.
For the same reason. Like I've picked Edmure before as a POV, so I'm like, I don't want to just keep rehashing another one that I've picked before. So with the Mountain, you would obviously see the battle at Stone Mill, and the Mountain is responsible for Tywin's outriders and the scouts and everything like that. So they would all probably be coming back to the Mountain first, not Tywin directly, to be like, hey, we fucking lost at this one.
Yeah.
Hey, we lost at this one. So you get this growing sense of we're losing everything. How the fuck is this happening? It's the fucking river people that we bitch slapped, a couple months ago. How are we losing everything? And then inside Gregor's head, you might get an idea of why he is so cruel. A lot of people cite his headaches and his migraines as a reason. Well, not a reason, but a contributing factor to his violent outburst. So we can see how true or false that actually is. And then you actually do get the battle at Stone Mill, and the Mountains, they said the Mountain was fairly active in it. He actually gained the far bank, but he was beat up and forced back across. So yeah, I think that could be pretty cool to see it from the Mountain's perspective.
I just wonder how articulate he is.
Considering some of the fandom.
That might get more people to read the books, short, choppy sentences.
Callback to first grade sentences.
I know.
You're a part of that.
That was all me. Okay.
Get on horse. Horse cross water.
Stab,
kill
stab,
man.
stab. Oh, God. Okay.
Where more men? I am lose.
I am lose?
Yeah, that's about one. No, Gregor speaks in that one Tyrion chapter where they're in the fucking report tent.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fairly literate, and also he's capable of painting a gory picture.
He's brutal, yeah.
If this scout doesn't see anything to take out his eyes and give it to the next scout. That way he has 4. It's oh, how poetic.
Yeah, can you imagine having a POV from him, threatening his people who are all being thrown back? So obviously he's not going to be happy.
He probably has some good one-liners. Good as in, horrible and savage and brutal. Alright, and just like that, we are on to quotes.
Yay.
Okay, I got a little bit. So, my first one, 491, but that doesn't give you any kind of...
No, because I'm on the 650.
So, Catelyn's thinking, I gave Brandon my favor to wear, and never comforted Peter once after he was wounded, nor bid him farewell when Father sent him off. And when Brandon was murdered, and Father told me I must wed his brother, I did so gladly, though I never saw Ned's face until our wedding day. I gave my maidenhood to this solemn stranger, and sent him off to his war, and his king, and the woman who bore him his bastard, because I always did my duty. Couple things here. She gave Ned her maidenhood. There's a post that was in our group a couple days ago now, talking about if she fucked Brandon and Rob is Brandon's father, or if it's Ned.
Rob is Brandon's father?
Right. Brandon is Rob's father. You know the idea I was going for. But this quote, among other passages, kill that theory. Dead. I found a link that went through, there's quite a few times where maidenhood and maidenhead are used, and they broke down each, and maidenhood, in this case, because Catelyn says maidenhood, there's numerous cases where maidenhood refers to virginity, and also the act of, or the condition of not being married yet. But there's multiple cases where it only refers to virginity. So Catelyn thinking, she's not telling anybody, she's not lying to anybody, she's thinking inside of her head that she gave her maidenhood to Ned means she gave her virginity to Ned, and that she didn't have sex with Brandon because she gave it to Ned, not Brandon.
What's the difference between maidenhood and maidenhead?
Nothing. Maidenhead is like an actual, like the hymen, like the thing, and maidenhood means the condition of not being married, but also virginity. Like maidenhead refers to that one thing more or less, and maidenhood refers to both.
Okay.
Unless people in the story in George R. R. Martin don't know what they're talking about and they use it differently.
I don't know.
But from the actual definitions and the way it's used in the story, means virginity.
Okay.
Second part of that is at the end she says, I always did my duty, and I think that's something that Stannis would appreciate. Because he's all about doing his duty and everything like that. You get it.
No.
Write your fanfic where Stannis and Catelyn actually marry and not Ned.
Fucking shoot me.
Whoa. It's a gun-free zone. A gun-free podcast.
Bitch, please. Shut the fuck up. Oh my god. Okay.
Your quote.
I had that quote marked down as well, but I also have one before it. So before it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about already. Edmure's just left, and Brienne's kind of sad that she couldn't go, and she looks to Kat and she says, "What shall we do now, my lady?" And Kat says, "Our duty. I have always done my duty," she thought. And then it goes into the whole Brandon, Ned, all of that stuff. So just to add on to the fact that House Tully words, family, duty, honor, are really drilled into this woman.
A lot of people seem to think that it's in that order that they prioritize one above the other. Do you believe in that, or is it all like an equal footing sort of type of thing?
I've never thought of it.
You haven't seen that, like those posts going around? How they
No.
they will cheat duty and honor
For their family?
Yeah, to do family stuff, and then they will do their duty over honor, and then honor is like last to them, and people seem to think that means they're shitty people.
I could see that making sense. I could see it making sense. I don't think that Edmure and Kat are that way. I think Hoster, whatever, I think he is that type of person. But I had never put any thought into the order of those words. I kind of just held them all equally. Like that. Well, it was what it was.
You think Hoster is that because he made his daughters marry for the Alliance?
Yeah.
How is he different from Rickard Stark, who who made his family to do the Alliance's thing too, a duty to go help his son, and then his honor was last because he was secretly engaging in this network of alliances to overthrow his king. He's the same way. That applies to fucking all of them.
Well, yeah, that does apply to all of them if you're thinking...
I mean, because if that's the one single example that you're using on Hoster, then it's Rickard Stark actually a Tully.
The marriage alliances and what he did to Lysa, making her get an abortion and all of that, basically to keep up appearances. I think he did some shady shit.
So Lysa's abortion is abhorrent in of itself. Is Rickard that different for forcing Lyanna to marry Robert when she didn't want to?
I don't want to get into an argument right now.
Oh, why not? No,
okay.
I'm just asking for a comparison here because I don't agree with that sentiment that the
You said before that Hoster's a dick.
He is kind of a dick.
So how am I wrong in saying that he would put family over duty and honor?
I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm asking for comparisons to other people. I never said you're wrong and Hoster's a great guy. I asked is Rickard Stark just as much of a shit as Hoster Tully is?
I think it's hard to put it in those terms because it seems like a good amount of the higher lords were in on it together to either depose the Targaryens or just get rid of Aerys and maybe put Rhaegar in. But the ultimate goal is to get rid of Aerys' crazy ass, right?
Right.
So if you look at it that way, nobody is a good person during that time if you're looking at their oath to their king.
Right. What I'm talking, because you're singling out Hoster making Lysa marry and shit. Rickard Stark kind of shares some of that blame too whenever Brandon died and he's like, oh, Ned, next up. And Ned was kind of just like, but I like this Ashara girl. Shut up.
Rickard was dead. Rickard and Brandon died together.
Yeah. I'm misremembering the timeline of events. So that was Hoster that made her marry Ned. But Hoster can't make Ned marry anybody.
John Aaron. Was it John Aaron that convinced Ned to... I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I don't remember. Like, why did
So
Ned have to
Rickard,
marry Cat?
Rickard and Brandon die, so then Ned is the de facto Warden of the North.
Oh, it was to gain the Riverlanders and their alliance.
In the war.
You're right, that's why. But Rickard still did his thing with Lyanna, and so
What the fuck ever.
the same kind of situation still stands. Anyway, point being,
do we truly know that Lyanna? Do we truly know Lyanna did not want to marry Robert?
Yeah.
How?
Ned remembers her saying that whole...
How many times have we said Ned is shit? He has a shit memory.
I don't think he has a shit memory.
His whole fever dream.
No, that's not a memory. That's a dream.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
We said that in our podcast. Because people think, oh, this memory that happened is like, no, he had a dream. It was a semi-recurrent dream that happens every 10 years or something like that. But him, like, he didn't dream Lyanna saying that to him. I think, like, the conflict in question is whether or not Robert loved Lyanna, and I think he did. She probably wasn't too much into him, but I don't think the issue was Lyanna liking Robert. The fandom argument comes from Robert liking Lyanna, for real or not.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't hate... The show has made me hate Lyanna. In the books, I never hated her. The show has really made me hate her. And it's probably just people in general. The fandom have made me hate her. And I don't want to hate her.
The show had no effect on my opinion of anything. So, my next one... So this is Brienne talking. Not a whole lot of analysis to go in here. Brienne says, I never knew my mother. My father had ladies. A different lady every year. And I was like, holy shit, Selwyn. Like, he's an old dude, isn't he?
I don't know. Do we ever know his age?
Well, Brienne's like 20, and like they're all old people, and she had like older brothers and stuff. But no, like I always thought he was like some old dude.
He's probably in his 50s.
Isn't he in the last chapter, the Davos chapter, like the old guy that rolls up to the gate with him? I don't know. He might have been. Yeah, don't know what to think of that, but I just didn't know that Selwyn had this rotating door of chicks going in.
Well, if Brienne's mom is dead, like...
I just assumed he wallowed in widowhood. What's your next quote?
I have too many post-its and not enough stuff written down, so apparently I marked a bunch of stuff that I decided wasn't worth writing down. Okay, Brienne and Kat are talking about fighting, and Brienne says fighting is better than waiting. Brienne says to Kat, and who would keep you safe, my lady? And this, you should like this, because this goes towards patriarchy brain.
Yeah,
and Kat says, why, the men of my house, or so my lady mother taught me, my lord father, my brother, my uncle, my husband, they will keep me safe. But while they are away from this place, I suppose you must fill their place, Brienne. And it's like, how fucking, I don't know if pathetic is the right word, but I was like, seriously? But that's the way it works.
That's how she was raised.
And she kind of seems like, maybe it's just the tone that I'm reading it to myself, like in my head. I feel like she understands the absurdity of it.
That's interesting, because I don't know if she understands it, but she accepts it at least. As in, like, this is just the way things are.
Yeah.
Like, why would they be any other way? But yeah, I had that quote down. Major patriarchy brain going on. Yeah, Kat's just going all in on this whole feudal structure, and it's just how it is. Which is, I mean, I guess it's not fine, but she's making her own way, and she has lived a good enough life through it, so. I guess. So yeah, if you jumped that one, my next is the Roose quote.
Okay.
So where is it at over here? This is a large paragraph here. Still, she was struck again by how strangely men behaved when it came to their bastards. Ned had always been fiercely protective of Jon, and Sir Courtney Penrose had given up his life for this Edric Storm. Yet Roose Bolton's bastard had meant less to him than one of his dogs, to judge from the tone of the queer, cold letter Edmure had gotten from him not 3 days past. He had crossed the Trident and was marching on Harrenhal as commanded. He wrote, "A strong castle and well garrisoned, but his grace shall have it, if I must kill every living soul within to make it so." He hoped his grace would weigh that against the crimes of his bastard son, whom Sir Roderick Castle had put to death. LOL. A fate no doubt earned, Bolton had written. Tainted blood is ever treacherous, and Ramsay's nature was sly, greedy, and cruel. I count myself well rid of him. The true-born sons my young wife has promised me, but never been safe while he lived. Like,
Damn right.
Oh, that's very insightful, Roos. Very, some foresight going on there. I read this quote, I'm like, Roos is scary. He's always had this cold, detached kind of personality about him before. The spot kind of just adds into it. And also, Ramsay ain't dead. So
Did he
we'll
know?
probably read about this in the... I mean, he's probably already... I don't think he's set on betraying Robb yet. Now, he's...
Westerling hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So... He's still a shady fuck, but is he aware that Ramsay switched himself out with Reek?
I don't know.
Like, how would you even get that message?
That's who Castle killed, right? Was Reek?
Yeah. Because they were out hunting, and that's who Roderick caught the two of them, and they had switched places.
Yeah. Those smaller details like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Roos got a letter and was like, "Hey, Ramsay's dead." He's like, "Oh well." And then he gets another letter. "Hey, Dad, I'm actually alive." And he's like,
"Oh, fuck."
Oh, okay. Like, he definitely believes, like, if I had true-born sons, Ramsay would kill him. But at the same time, if Ramsay's not dead, I can make use for him.
Do you think Ramsay killed Domeric?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Well, some people think he didn't, so...
There's not a whole lot of evidence to go either way.
He did.
It seems in his nature that he would.
He did.
But that's about as much incriminating evidence against him that I have, is that you seem like an asshole that would do that.
Hashtag justice for Domeric.
Domeric would just be the next skin bag that Roose Bolton changes into. So.
Oh,
if
Roose is a vampire.
Yeah,
Bolton. If Roose is even his real name.
Have you heard of the Bolt-on theory?
I love Bolt-on.
Oh, we'll save it for theories. I'll tell you all about it.
Did you actually write it down for theories?
No, I fucking didn't.
Oh.
It's a ridiculous theory.
But it's
hilarious,
fun.
but it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how a lot of theories are. They're stupid, but they're fun to think about. That was you, right? So is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, I had that same one. So moving on past that. So this is kind of... So this little section here is a callback to our previous chapter. Not the previous cat chapter, but the previous Davos chapter. And I know I'm reading too much into some of this for it to play into wins, but just hear me out and see if you see what I see. So they've woken her up because someone's attacking something. And she says, the defenders had built watchfires along the bank, and perhaps the Lannisters thought to find them night blind or unwary. If so, it was folly. Darkness was a chancy ally at best. Obviously, Davos, and Mel had the same kind of conversation. As they waded in to breast their way across, men stepped in hidden pools and went down splashing, while others stumbled over stones or gashed their feet on the hidden caltrops. I'm reading way too much into this. I know I am. But that kind of sounds to me like Night Lamp.
Yeah.
There's no way in 1999 George R.R. Martin was thinking about Stannis doing that. But I thought it was an interesting thing. So maybe it's a theme in battle. I don't know.
I definitely see the whole similarities that you're talking about, the night vision thing that Davos was talking about, and that is a similar strategy to what people theorize will happen at the Battle of Ice. But until it actually does happen, it could just not be a thing. But yeah, it sounds very similar. Okay. I agree with you. I don't think George was like,
"Oh, there's no fucking way.
I'll write this now, and then in 4 books." I'll do it again.
In 20 years. Oh my god, it's been 20 years.
A more probable explanation is that 2 years ago, George is sitting at his computer with a blank page going like, I have no fucking idea, let me read a clash. Ooh, I can do this again. Except with ice. And not with caltrops.
What the fuck is a caltrop?
I assumed it was like a bear trap thing.
You don't know what it is either?
No.
Okay.
Like a spike, like or something. Something that causes lots of pain.
You don't have an annotation about it like you did the gauntlet throwing thing?
No, because this ebook assumes that I know what a caltrop is.
Okay.
And if it's pronounced caltrop or caltrop.
I don't know.
I don't know either. My next quote's way longer. It's after she talks to Cleos Frey. Do you have anything in between there? For whatever reason, I skipped over that whole negotiation part.
I have one right before Cleos.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so right before she meets with Cleos, they've come in and the writer from Mallister is telling her it was good enough, to push them away. And she's thinking to herself, perhaps Edmure was wiser than I knew. His lords all saw the sense in his battle plans. Why was I so blind? My brother is not the little boy I remember, no more than Robb is. And I thought that was a good moment of self-reflection for her because this entire time she's been doubting Edmure. And she's been so scared about the actions of Robb and everything like that. And she's finally realizing that they are coming into their own and they know what they're doing. Like, granted, we know later on Edmure did a good thing, but he gets his ass handed to him for it. But it was a good plan at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so if we want to jump ahead a little bit and discuss how Robb,
we're a reread podcast. We know what happened.
With how we pointed this out, I suppose it was in a Game of Thrones or maybe earlier on in this cat reread. Robb just kind of uses Edmure as like a
punching bag
scapegoat for fucking everything. Like, Robb hates him, apparently. And anything that Edmure does, Robb will always find fault for some fucking reason. This spoiled little asshole kid, the 6'6" guy over there called him king once, and now this brat is just like shitting all over him. He's like, in that one scene that we're talking about, Edmure's like, I was backing you up, Robb, and he's like, shut up, don't call me Robb,
boy,
or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yes.
And then here, Edmure wins. Like I said in the summary, a legendary victory, a huge victory, momentum swinger, and Robb's gonna come in and be like, I didn't fucking tell you to do that, and it's like, you didn't tell him not to fucking do that. Let's do the whole river run.
Yes.
That's a vague fucking command. If you had this grand master plan to let this giant fucking army walk right by us, you should have fucking told him, dude.
Yeah.
So that's Robb's fucking fault, and then you're absolutely right. Edmure had a great plan and executed it almost flawlessly. Some people died, so it's not a perfect victory, but they won every single battle.
The cost of doing business.
Right. That's still a great plan, greatly executed, and Robb shows no appreciation for it because Edmure should have been a green seer and known what the fucking plan was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a good self-reflection period for Cat, like you said. I don't have a quote for the Cleos thing, but it is a deceptively clever move for her to feed him wine for a couple hours before she goes and talks to him, so that he's all talkative and she can tell when he's stumbling and delaying and hesitating for a lie. So, good move, Cat.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's not one of my quotes. It's just I realized I didn't quote anything from their interaction.
I didn't either, though.
That deserves to be called out because, like I said, that's a good move.
Okay. That's all I had for quotes.
Okay, so I had a small one on 499. This is when she's receiving news that everybody got their asses kicked and Edmure won. Sir Gregor himself had lost his horse and staggered back across the road for bleeding from a dozen wounds, while a rain of arrows and stones fell about him. They shall not cross, Cat, Edmure scrawled. Lord Tywin is marching to the southeast. A feint, perhaps, or a full retreat, it matters not. They shall not cross. And my notes were, okay, Gandalf.
Yeah, when I read it,
that
yeah.
Is clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus pass. Like, I get what you're saying there. So, there you go.
That'll be one of the few times I will admit that he has ripped Tolkien.
You didn't rip him. He's inspired by it.
What the fuck ever.
But yeah, so I was excited to find a literary reference that I actually understand. And that I don't need a giant essay or 4.5 hour podcast to tell me, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me go look at Ragnarok. I get it now. I'm like, no, I know this myself already. But I imagine everybody who reads this fucking book saw that one coming. And then also, it says Tywin is marching or retreating back to the southeast. And Edmure's not sure where the fuck he's going, but we know he is heading to King's Landing.
Yep.
So.
Well, I guess that could have been part of our, how does this affect other plots? I said it pushes the Lannisters back, but ultimately it sets up Tywin going to save King's Landing. True.
If Tywin would have, this might be like better placed in our theories, but if Tywin would have wanted to,
let's do it in theories because I don't have anything. Do you?
Yes.
Oh, well, all right then.
So our next one up is standout appearances, and mine is definitely Edmure for his good plan, no battle losses. He beat the shit out of the mountain.
And that's it.
Does there need to be more? Is that not good enough for you, Rob?
I'm sorry, I find that too funny.
That was a funny laugh. That laugh had layers.
Okay, I gotta stop.
Who's your standout?
I'm sorry.
I didn't think it was that funny.
It's not, and that's why I keep laughing. I'm sorry. Okay. My standout makes absolutely no fucking sense. I'll just tell you right now.
Cool.
Well, I guess like most things I say, my standout was Ryman the Rhymer.
Yep, makes no fucking sense.
Alright. So, there's this part
I'm just kidding.
where he's obviously the singer at River Run, and after they're told of the victory, this time he's singing about Oxcross. And the stars in the night were the eyes of his wolves, and the wind itself was their song. And it says, between verses, Ryman threw back his head and howled, and by the end, half the hall was howling along with him. Tell me that is not Great John 2.0.
Yeah, he'd have fucking loved it.
Yeah, so that's why he stood out to me, because I immediately thought of the Great John.
Well, that's
stupid.
Sad.
I told you. But I did give props to Edmure, so I recognize the positive aspects of these people, which is not like me.
So on to theories. So what I was gonna say before we cut off and decided to replace it here 2 minutes ago, if Tywin would have won at Stonemill, you think he still would have cut back?
Had a message gotten to him, would he really have any other choice?
Yeah, that's a dumb question. He definitely would have cut back.
Like, he's not going to let his family die. You know, he's not going to let them lose King's Landing.
Theories. Ashara. I found, like, her name was mentioned in this chapter, and we have never talked about Ashara. So
I marked down the quote before her name is mentioned because I was like, oh, this proves it, and then I turned the page and I was like, oh, damn, her name's there. Because Kat's like, the woman that, or wait, does she grieve for Ned as I do, or does she hate him for leaving her bed? John's mother, that shadowy secret lover, and then on the next page it talks about Ashara Dane. I was like, oh, fuck, never mind then.
So it's interesting the way it's written here, and again, this is all in Kat's head. If John had been born of Ashara Dane of Starfall, as some whispered, the lady was long dead. And if not, Catelyn had no clue who or where his mother might be, and it made no matter. Ned was gone now, and his loves and his secrets had all died with him. Does that, like, that kind of says to me, like, don't worry about it. You're not going to know, because I'm not going to fucking tell you.
As in, we're not going to know, the readers?
Yeah, that's George R.R. Martin speaking to whoever's reading that.
I guess so. I thought of it more as, you know, Kat's already kind of written John off in general, and she's super happy that he went to the wall, because now he's renounced any type of fucking claim that there ever could be. So I took it in a way of, it doesn't fucking matter if it was with Ashara and him being a noble bastard, because he's fucking out of the picture now. That's how I took it.
Right, so maybe it's a combination. It's George R. R. Martin saying to Catelyn via her own thoughts that it doesn't fucking matter who John's parent or mother is, or who Ned fucked, because he's fucking off in the ice, and Ned's dead, and doesn't
matter.
Doesn't matter to Catelyn anymore.
Yeah.
And then she dies, and she never finds out anyway, so.
Who? Cat?
Yeah.
She's alive.
Stoneheart's alive. Catelyn's dead. Catelyn Tully is no longer alive, or Catelyn Stark is no longer alive.
Haha, you called her
Stoneheart,
Catelyn Tully.
whatever.
I
Other people call her Catelyn Tully too.
called her Catelyn Tully before, and you argued with me. She's a Stark.
But yeah, so whether that means to us, to the reader, like it doesn't matter, or if it means to Catelyn it doesn't matter. Obviously, it doesn't matter to Catelyn for sure. But I read that and I was like, is this like a meta kind of quote saying like, don't worry about it? Because then like I got to thinking like, who's gonna verify anything to Jon anyway? Because Ned's dead. Ned didn't tell anybody.
Howland.
Why do you think Howland knows?
Because Howland was at the Tower of Joy and is the only survivor. There's been too many years for people to think through this shit.
Yeah, I don't know, and everyone's convinced of RLD or RLJ.
I like RLD, but
Yeah, I mean, I find certain aspects of Daenerys and her visions and everything she wants to fulfill as Rhaegar's sister, and I'm like, that kind of seems more like a father-daughter sort of thing. Like, no one walks in their brother's footsteps like that. But other than other things that go along with it, but I don't know. It just kind of jumped out at me like, maybe you shouldn't worry about it either, kind of sort of thing. And again, Howland, everybody wants to talk Howland up, but Howland's kind of like a nobody in the story.
I'm to the point where, and you know, in comparison to people like Joe who read the books like when they came out, and people like us who have read the books in the past 2 to 3 years, it's a huge difference. But just in that short amount of time that I've been involved in this, I'm to the point where I don't really care if Howland shows up. Like, at first I was like, oh, that would be so cool. He can tell us what happened at the Tower of Joy. He can tell us about Jon's parents and all of that. And now I'm like, little frog man, just, I don't care.
I would love it if Howland, like, they get there and he's, like, sick and dying and, like, he died, like, 4 days ago or something like that. Not that I'm happy for Howland to die, but, like, whatever secret knowledge he might have
Died with
just
him.
goes with him. And, like, everybody's like, oh, we found the floating castle or whatever it is. Greywater Watch.
Oh, Greywater Watch. Wow. Yes, Greywater Watch.
Like, they, like, you know, you read from, like, a prologue or an epilogue or something like that, like, and there's Greywater Watch, and they're like, yes, we're gonna fucking, and it's like, oh, we stumbled in on a funeral. Howland is dead. And everybody is just like, oh no, that sucks. That'd be great. But yeah, no, like when Winds comes out, I'm not gonna hold on to any theories. I'm probably just gonna read it for plot only at first and be like, this is so cool, and then go back there and be like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, no, I have no plans on doing any type of in-depth. No, I just want to read it and know what happens. Later on, I can do that kind of shit. But no, I just want the story. I want to know, like, tell me what's happening.
Right. So, I asked here in theories, is there any seeding for the Red Wedding here? And I think this all came from the Cleos talk. So she's like, I know no grandson of Walder Frey would be an oath breaker unless it's served its purpose. So it's like a...
Yeah.
She's admitting...
Don't trust him for shit.
Walder Frey, yeah, like she doesn't really trust him. Like Walder Frey could be okay unless he has like some kind of ulterior plan. And anytime that comes up with that, it's always... I'm like, well, we know what's going on here. Because when she talked to Walder Frey earlier, or in the Game of Thrones, I suppose, and anytime like the Freys are mentioned, she's always just like, they're sworn bannermen to the Tullys for now. Like it's always that extra bit at the end there.
And the late Walder Frey, and she knows what type of man he is.
Right. She notices Cleos fumbling for a lie. I don't know if there's anything to dig into with that. Like anytime I read about that tacked on end to anytime she talks about a Frey, where it's like, but they're also kind of shitheads. She knows they're capable of doing this, but she never thinks they'll actually go through with it.
Yeah.
The last one, it says the gods had granted them victory after victory at Stonemill, at Ockcross, at the Battle of the Camps, at Whispering Wood. But if we are winning, why am I so afraid? And I think that like this victory at Stonemill is the last major victory the Starks actually get, right? Because Robb has to come back. He doesn't march to Lannisport or Castle Rock.
Technically, this is after Golden Tooth. So, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the next Catelyn chapter opens up with them learning that Winterfell's been sacked,
Hmm.
and then
At that point, they start working backwards.
Robb has been, he brought back the Westerling girl, so
Whore.
then they have to go to the Freys, and then they all die. So
Yeah, this is the
this,
last time.
yeah, this is the last one. So that's an ominous quote from Catelyn. Like, if we're winning everything, like, why am I so terrified? Well, because you're done winning now. Like, this moment right here is the height of their power.
Yeah, and it wasn't even her son; it was Edmure.
Right, and well, I mean, it's the build-up. They pushed all the way over there to the crag, but it's all downhill from here, and that's a pretty heavy quote there at the end to close this chapter on. When they had this huge victory, they beat back the mountain, they beat back Tywin, and it closes like, well, why am I still shitting my pants? So, clever way to end, and an interesting way to end off on the end of the Stark success, as it were, until we at least, or at the earliest, in Winds of Winter when they start gaining some ground back. Dance ended with the last male Stark, or, well, not the last male Stark, but Jon being stabbed to death, and Bran turning into a tree.
Rickon's alive.
Riding unicorns on Skagos with cannibals. Yeah, I know. He's going to be the best one.
Yeah. Well, and then if they get Dornish law, Arya and Sansa.
There's that whole the whole She-Wolves of Winterfell plot was about a bunch of chicks fighting for power.
How do we know that? Like, was that at a conference he said that or something? Because I've never read anything like that, and I keep seeing people say that.
I couldn't tell you if I read it in a book or online.
Okay.
You saw the Preston video on it, right? Oh, really?
I
Check
saw
it
that. I saw that it was put up, but I haven't watched it. I haven't been keeping up with YouTube.
It is a heavy speculation-based piece, but I still found it interesting and plausible, detailing who the She-Wolves could possibly be at that current time period. Very interesting. Do you have anything else to talk about for this chapter?
Nope, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was a dull chapter. Ended strongly.
Yeah.
I like the end. But the next chapter is going to be a lot more interesting. It is Catelyn's final chapter of A Clash of Kings.
Sexy time between Kat and Jaime.
Except they don't have sex.
You
I thought you said you weren't writing fan fiction.
It's not fan fiction. It's true. You just have to read between the lines. You're not reading the real story.
Yeah, no, I'm reading the ebook of it. My stepmom stole my paperback copy when I was in Germany. I made her read it, and then she liked it, and then I left, and I was like, oh, fuck, you still have my book. And she was like, yup, LOL. I'm like, are you trying to kill my podcast? And she was like, I don't care.
I don't care.
I'm just kidding. She kind of listens to us sometimes, so maybe she'll hear that. That's how I know if she'll listen to this episode.
Okay.
Anyway, we're not going to have a guest on for this next cat episode. Some stuff happened, and that's not going to be possible, so it'll be just me and Lillian. So that's what's coming up for us next. I am going to be guesting on another podcast, the Ironwood Network. They are also a reread group, or a reread podcast, not a group. I've been going back and forth with them on Twitter over the last couple months, mostly defending Catelyn and Sansa, and I will be coming on when they talk about Sansa 1 from A Clash of Kings. They're good people. They know their stuff. 2 of the 3 are in our group, but they don't really broadcast their names in their podcast, so I'm not going to broadcast their names here. Yeah, they're good stuff. Check out their podcast, the Ironwood Network. And then whenever I'm on that episode, we'll make sure to link everything out. They support us, so I support them, and you guys should too. They're very funny. That's about all I got. Lillian, you got anything else to toss out there?
Nope.
All right, so join us back again as we close out Cat for A Clash of Kings. And thanks for listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Look up the Twitter, GC_podcast_. And then find us on iTunes now. That's another thing. The guy from the Iron Network helped me set up our iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, helped me set us up to expand across all these other platforms. and he didn't have to do that, and that was real cool of him. So check us out on all those other platforms too. If YouTube's not your thing, if SoundCloud is not your thing, yeah. So we're all over the place now. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, guys.